Ronnie Spector and is of course the Ronettes, part of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. The very cool girl group style. Ronnie Spector brought the style to women in rock and roll. It's a very interesting thing if you go back and look how many people start looking at like Ronnie Spector after she came out. She was like the first official rock and roll tough girl. All the early guys in rock and roll fell madly in love with her over in the Brill Building. Obviously, her book is out, and if you like to, read any of those stories, I try not to get too personal about her personal life because I just adore her and like everything that she's brought to rock. But the number of people that she's been muses for, Brian Wilson wrote songs about her, Billy Joel wrote songs about her, Eddie Money wrote songs about her, as well as her having her own hits. Keith Richards fell crazy in love with her. The Beatles were nuts about her. Everybody was, and then Ronnie, of course, what happened, went away for 8, 9 years because of the marriage that she was in, didn't see anybody. And the strangest thing about Ronnie is she has no idea how beloved she is. So every year we start Christmas by reminding her. It's Ronnie Spector's best Christmas party ever. New York, Washington, D.C., and Connecticut. RonnieSpector.com to get all the dates. Let's bring in the rock and roll legend, Miss Ronnie Spector. You cannot like rock and roll music without being a fan of our guest, the one and only Ronnie Spector. How nice to see you, Ronnie.
Hi, Ron. How are you?
Do you know that I am getting emails daily that says it is not Christmas until Ronnie Spector comes in? You're like the kind of hip version of Santa Claus now.
Or Mrs. Claus.
Or Mrs. Claus.
Honey. I don't want to be Mr. Claus now.
How are you doing?
I am doing so great. I mean, we just got back from Puerto Rico, Bahamas, St. Tropez, on a big ship.
Is that right?
Yeah, and then I was in Paris just to do this Olympia girl. Her name is Olympia. And she did a fashion show. And they called me out for one day in Paris just to do the end of the fashion show because it was all about 60s girl groups and how they dressed, and especially my group, the Ronettes. So it was so great.
Isn't that amazing?
It was special.
And by the way, you will never. The oddest thing is that you girls still love that look, that '60s girl group love.
You know what is amazing to me,
Yeah.
Ron? Especially in the first few rows of my shows, they all have their hair sort of up.
Right.
You know, not like a Snooki look, but like a my look.
Right, exactly.
You know, it's like an Amy Winehouse, and it was like, what? And I'm looking, like I feel I'm looking at myself, but it's such a compliment.
It is
to have people do their hair like you and makeup like you and the eyes, the whole bit. You know, I love it.
Because that, I think, your era is what brought style too.
It brought rock and roll, it
Yeah.
brought style, it brought everything. And I tell a lot of people that ask me, Ronnie, what should we do about outfits? Don't listen to the trend.
Right.
Because some people are too fat for the trend, too small for the trend. So go by what makes you feel comfortable.
Right.
That's you see me, I got on flats.
Yeah,
I don't wear no heels around New York City.
because you got to be able to move.
You gotta
be able to move.
I gotta move and make it to the next radio.
Yeah, but you're in Paris, of course, the
Yes.
center of fashion.
I was.
And the fashion is stuff that you did in Upper Manhattan in the 1960s.
Yes.
Only because that's just the way you wanted to dress.
Yeah, we didn't have, like today, everybody has a choreographer, 25 dancers behind them. We didn't have that. I mean, maybe some of the other groups had stylists
Right.
and stuff. We had 6 aunts and my mother, her sisters. So it was 7 aunts that knew how to do makeup and put Kleenex down our bras. I was only 17.
How did all the women in the family, though, feel about the fact that not only are you doing rock and roll, but you became a sex symbol? What were the women thinking? You know,
My aunts, they loved
Yeah,
it. They
yeah.
loved it. I mean, we're standing on how we got discovered was standing outside the Peppermint Lounge And the guy says, "You're late," because we all dressed alike with intention to dress alike.
Right.
And the hair up in the beehives, and he couldn't miss us. So he said, "You're late. The dancers, you're late." We weren't dancers, but we knew how to dance.
Yeah.
So we took her from there, went up on that stage, and the rest, as they say, history.
Rock and roll history.
Yeah.
And you were hanging out front just because you wanted to be close to where it was happening.
No, I wanted to be known.
Yeah.
We weren't known. I mean, we were at the Apollo when I was like 11 or 12.
Yeah.
And my parents said, if you can go over at the Apollo, you can, and I'm a half-breed,
Yeah.
you can go over anywhere. And I was afraid, oh, God, they're going to think I'm trying to pass, But I went up to the Apollo. I had about 4 cousins with me. And the lead singer, he got out there and went, nothing came out.
Yeah.
So what I did, I grabbed the mic, because that was my chance. I was 11 or 12 years old. My parents said, no more rock and roll, I went there, and that audience loved me, and I knew from then. And I was about 11 or 12.
Well-
and then we went to the Peppermint Lounge when I was 15, 16.
It's the most difficult place to get over on stage at the Apollo. People get so nervous about it, but you had none of the nerves, just the excitement.
Well, I was nervous, but my cousin, by him not singing, just made me so anxious because I wanted to sing so badly.
Yeah.
And my parents were saying, no way, no way, no way. You got to go to school. I'm 11 years old. The hell with school.
You're ready to go.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
ready at 11. So my parents convinced me to take it at the Apollo. If you go over well there, we won't say anything more to you about your singing.
Your chances to see Ronnie Spector. It's the best Christmas party ever. You know the song. B.B. King's in New York. And then the Howard Theater in Washington, D.C. That's December 15th.
Yes.
And then the following Saturday, December 27th, the Mohegan Sun Casino.
Yes.
So it's the 14th is B.B. King's, 15th, the Howard
Howard Theater in Washington, D.C.
in D.C.
You know what I'm glad about that, though?
Yeah.
Because, the president just got reelected. And I feel so good about that. He's a half-breed, I'm a half-breed.
Right.
And I feel he knows about every color, like I did growing up. I knew my sister married Chinese, my other cousin married Jew. I mean, you don't
Right.
care. You know about all colors. I grew up in a neighborhood in Spanish Harlem.
Right.
Where there was white, Italian, Irish, of course, Jewish, black, Spanish, Puerto Ricans. We had everything in my neighborhood. So when I got to the other part of the world, I said, what is that? I didn't know about prejudice or any of that. Coming from a mixed family and stuff, I didn't know anything. I was like dumb.
But no, I think that's the best way. You were actually involved. You know what's really cute when it comes to that is so many of the English groups came in the 60s, and they said, how do you get to Harlem? Eric Burden and the Animals felt
I brought the
comfortable.
Beatles to Sherman's Barbecue in Harlem.
Beatles you brought up there in what early 60s, right? 64,
When they were at the
65?
Plaza Hotel.
Yeah.
And they called us up and said, Ronnie, we're bored. We don't know anybody here. Because we had just come from London.
Yeah.
And they came to see our show. They weren't even known in America yet. And what was I saying?
Well, when you're talking about the Beatles going uptown, you took the Stones?
I took them to Sherman's.
Yeah.
I took the Rolling Stones to the Apollo.
Uh-huh.
Because I had just headlined there. So the Apollo let me right in. And they kept going and going. And I went to this little place called Ondine's on East 59th Street. Bob Dylan hung out there, all the English groups.
Yeah.
And guess who was the guitar player?
Who was that?
Jimi Hendrix.
Wow.
And I used to get up there and jam with Jimmy all night long. And I didn't get my homework done. Screw the homework. I was so in love with rock and roll.
You have lived such an incredible life, and you could go through it decade after decade. Bruce Springsteen,
Yes.
a big fan of yours. Of course, Billy Joel
The
wrote.
Stones and the Beatles
Yeah.
were my first, me and the Rolling Stones and the Beatles, well, the Ronettes.
Had you met any English people at all before you went over there and met those
No,
guys?
not at all.
So the world was like kind of like a bigger place then where people didn't mix. And here you were over in England and you're just this little girl from Upper Manhattan. That had to feel crazy at that time.
No, but it was a good crazy. You
Yeah.
know, it's like, you're in England?
Right.
You're in the UK? You're a little girl from Spanish Harlem. What are you doing in the UK? That's the feeling I got. Then I said, well, wait a minute. This girl from Spanish Harlem is in the UK, and she's got the Stones as her opening act. They were my opening
Wow.
act, by the way. And the Beatles coming to Decca Records to see what we look like because they had seen us on London Sunday night at the London Palladium, and they said we got to meet these girls with this black hair and this high beehive. So they came to my Decca Records party in England.
And you're just breaking hearts one after another. You destroyed those boys.
I didn't try to, though.
They're still talking about it all these years later.
You know what Keith just said about? He said, Ronnie. I knew what rock and roll was about when I slept with Ronnie Spector. I almost fell off the bed because that's not true. He may have sat on the bed with me, but didn't sleep in the bed with me.
Well, no one will ever find out the rest of that.
I know.
They're just going to take
I ain't
part.
telling nobody either.
But the beautiful thing about that too, and I've talked about this before, but you can see the Stones change. There's a great documentary out on them.
I
right
heard
now.
about that. Yes,
And you see what they look like in the early '60s, and as time's going on, the entire band to me looks like, oh, I know where to get sunglasses, the same place Ronnie Spector does. I know where to get shirts, same place Ronnie Spector. So that's always, and I also know how to dance.
well,
and they
we
start
did take
dancing.
them shopping because
Yeah.
I mean I felt sorry for the Rolling Stones.
Yeah.
When they first came to America, they didn't have a hit record. They didn't have Satisfaction. They didn't have any of that.
They weren't even writing then.
No, they slept
Yeah.
on the floor of my apartment. My mom made them bacon and eggs, and they slept on the floor, and they were happy.
Just happy to be here in America.
Be there with me, honey.
Did you, I mean, we go through this, Hendrix, the Beatles, Stones, it goes on and on.
Yeah.
Did it ever occur to you, like, I'm here for rock and roll history, or did it just feel like a life that you were living?
It was what I did and what I loved. I mean, how do you go beyond that? You know, it's
Right.
like your husband or your children. You can't go beyond. I just love what I did so much. And I never, even when I was married in California, and I was out there for 7, 8 years, I always thought about the stage. And I thought by marrying who I married, of course he
Right.
knew I loved the business. Of course he knew I would made great records. I didn't do, I made a couple of records on Apple and one on A&M, but I never, ever saw the stage again.
Well, and everybody thought that, what happened to Ronnie Spector, and I don't think most people realize there was like a Rapunzel thing that there was, and again, like I said, that has to do with your ability to break hearts, because
I don't try to.
I know, but I think that it would create jealousy and all that kind of stuff because men have always.
I know.
Hit the floor when you walk by. It's just happened to you your whole life.
Oh, my whole life, even
Yeah.
now, and I love that though. I keep myself healthy. And
Oh, well,
together
you look
and-
fantastic.
Oh, thank you.
But you've had that ever since you were a little girl.
Yeah.
And we were talking about the time that you were off. There were so many people that wanted to work with you then. So many
Yes.
songs that were being written for you, and most of that stuff you didn't even find out about.
Well,
right?
I had done I Can Hear Music, which the Beach Boys.
Right.
I remember, what's his name?
Brian
Mike
was-
Love.
oh,
No,
Mike
Mike Love. We went to see his show with Paul Schaefer, John and I.
Mm-hmm.
He comes backstage. He said, Ronnie, I listened to your record, I Can Hear Music, over and over and over to get your exact phrasing, your exact timing. What?
Yeah, right.
I'm like in shock, But my record, of course, wasn't put out to be promoted. None of my stuff was. And I had So Young by the Students, under the name Veronica. Oh, where did that come from, So it was always the Ronettes and stuff, and it just got crazy. So I had to get back to my roots. And I
Right.
don't mean just in Spanish Harlem. I had to get back to my own roots and know who I was and what I'm all about. Because I was out there for so long, and I just didn't know where I was or who I was. I was a little lost girl.
But why that was happening, I think what's also interesting is that the world never forgot about you.
That's what it's like Billy Joel wrote "Take Goodbye to Hollywood" with me in mind to get out of Hollywood. My way of getting out of Hollywood.
Right.
Bruce Springsteen wrote a duet for me and Southside to sing, and then of course I was on his records too.
Yeah.
So all these people that, what shocked me? I didn't know anybody knew me when I came back from California. I was like this little lost girl. All of a sudden, I'm not downtown. There's Billy Joel coming over to me. I'm in
Right.
New Jersey. They said, Ronnie, you got to get up and sing. I can't, I didn't even know I could sing anymore. So, how my confidence went zoop.
This is the thing about you that's so wild, though, is it never seems to sink in that you're actually a rock and roll icon, that you are people think about you in the same way that they'll think about Dylan, as they'll think about Elvis, Chuck Berry, Bruce Springsteen, that you have that thing. So then you're surprised that some of these people have written songs for you and
Oh, yeah.
want to record with you.
Well, you have to remember, I didn't record for 7-8 years, so that took my what do you call it? Live
Your confidence level?
confidence all the way down.
Yeah.
It just beat me down, down, down. You know what I'm talking about?
Right.
To say you can't sing and you can't do this, you can't do that. So I just, when I got back to New York, I said I can't do it. You know, because I was convinced that I couldn't. I was brainwashed.
Yeah.
So then I found out, hey, you still can sing and you still got your movements up there, and so I never stopped.
So from that point on, and by the way, to see Ronnie Spector Christmas party, the best Christmas party ever. She's doing these shows. Nobody loves Christmas as much as Ronnie Spector does. December 14th, B.B. King's in New York City. December 15th, the Howard Theater, Washington, D.C., and then Mohegan Sun Casino in Connecticut. That's December 22nd.
As a matter of fact, the Mohegan Sun put me in the Hall of Fame.
Is that right?
Can you believe that?
Yes, I do believe it.
I mean, I'm in the regular Hall of Fame, you know, for all of America, but to be
Right.
just for Mohegan Sun, and they have acts there all the time. So for them to pick me to be the one in the Hall of Fame of Mohegan Sun at the Wolfgang, I just all of this keeps surprising me more and more. You know, I said, what's
Yeah.
going to happen Christmas now? You know, because I do have a show we're working on and stuff called Beyond the Beehive.
Oh, is that right? Now,
Yeah.
what are you planning on doing with that?
Well, I'm playing myself because, as you know, there are a lot of performers out there. Like you have Jersey Boys, which is a great show,
Yeah.
but they're done by actors. You have the Dusty Springfield show. That's an actress. I'm playing me. And that's what people love, to come and see the original. So I'm doing my Beyond. I did it for 5 weeks at the City Winery this summer.
How did
And
you like that?
I loved it, and the people loved it. And that's, see, not so much me. When I look out there in the audience and I see those smiles and I see those guys winking,
Right.
and the girls winking, that's my, it's
Yeah,
time to.
that
and
gets you going.
Yes. I mean, I have to admit to you, Ron,
Yeah.
the first song or two, and I come out, I'm like this, my heart is going. I tell the audience, you know, then I come, like the second song toward the end, then I'm there with the audience. But walking out there, I'm as scared as a rat. And I know it, after all these years being in the business on and off, that I shouldn't be that way. I really can't help it. I think I'm going to throw up, you know, when I go out there. But I try to hold it in. And on the ship, I really threw up coming off when I got off stage.
Right.
Because the ship was doing that.
Yeah, the ship's
vibrating
moving
and
back
stuff.
and forth.
And it was vibrating that night in bed. I said, ooh, this is good vibration. You know, I did.
But maybe you need that excitement level to build you up, that it feels like it's fear, but it's just you pumping yourself up again and ready to go.
Every show I do, I pump myself up right backstage. I do. I can't help it. I pace.
Yeah.
I go in the corner for like 3 minutes, and I just say, please God, make this be okay. I'm still doing that. You know, I did that at 18. I'm still doing that.
Yeah.
But I like doing that because it gives me that confidence to just go out there. And I'm still, that heart is still going fast, you know, but I get past it all. And the audience loves it.
And
They
all of
eat
a
it
sudden
up.
it feels great.
Yeah,
You know, all of a
it's
sudden
so
it feels great for you.
So great. So
Now,
great.
the show that you're doing there, it's kind of like you're telling the story and doing the songs.
Well, and Beyond the Beehive.
Yeah, Beyond the
I tell
Beehive.
my whole story since I'm like 5 years old. You know, grew up in Spanish Harlem, all the way to the Beatles, the Stones, and it gets all the way to the end. But when I'm doing my rock, this is a rock and roll show. But my other shows are theatrical, like to go on off Broadway and stuff. But the ones that I do, like at Mohegan Sun, at BB's,
Yeah.
we all Christmas songs.
Yeah.
And all my hits. And that's all people want.
Yeah, they do.
And my Christmas stuff are hits.
Yeah.
So.
Well, you know, you go over some of these things that you talk about the Hall of Fame, but the fact that you look, just think of the millions and millions of songs that have been recorded and sung over the years, and "Be My Baby" ranks at the top with all
It's
these.
amazing to me. That is amazing. If somebody had told me over 40 years ago that 40 somewhat years from now people will still love "Be My Baby," I would say, out of your mind, you know. And it's true, they love it.
They do absolutely love it, but what also is interesting is that it'll get used in a movie or a TV show, and suddenly there's this young generation of kids who are going, where exactly can I find this song? And you'll be like, really?
They come to my shows. Are you kidding me? I'm talking about 18, 17.
Yeah.
Every age I get from 8 to 80.
Yeah.
You know, and every one of them, they love the songs. They love my performance. And I'm not bragging, but it makes me feel damn good. Okay?
No, I know young girls who actually wear the eyeshadow exactly the way you wore it.
The Cleopatra.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Thank you.
And they collect the vinyl. They want albums even more
and they
than
want the
anything else.
45s.
Yeah.
People come to my shows when I was doing this. I was on the ship like a week or two ago. People come up to my shows because I have a questions and answers one day, and then signing and pictures with everybody. First of all, the whole ship wanted to take a picture with me. It just went on and on. The line just kept coming, and that was great too. I was going to say something. I always I get so nervous. And
right. Well, we were talking about the fact that these kids keep coming up and they want the 45s like in the old days.
Right. And it's amazing that they want the 45s and they're singing Be My Baby or Walking in the Rain right in front of me. And I said, these kids weren't born.
Yeah, they were not born.
So that shocks me. But then their parents taught them and their parents listened to our records. So you get it from every generation now. And I've been in it for over 4 decades.
Yeah.
And I get it from from little to big.
And isn't it, and I always tell you this, I want you to remember it, when you see that, particularly what you've been through when for 7, 8 years you weren't even allowed to hear what was going out there.
That's
Let
right.
listen to those people when they tell you how much they love you. Let that sink in, because in the history of rock and roll, we would not have it the way we do without Ronnie Spector.
Oh, Ron,
So-
now you're making me cry.
No.
You can't make me cry.
No,
I got to talk on this show. And if I cry, I can't cry and talk. So forget about it. Give me a Kleenex.
But it is the truth. It is
Thank
the
you.
truth.
Oh, Ron.
And all right, I'll let you go before you do the other shows. And
that's
go.
right.
But
And
it would not be Christmas without you.
Oh, Ron, I love you for saying that.
And it is the truth. And let it in every day if you can. Everybody gets the chance to go out and see this. This is true rock and roll.
Yep.
The way we always loved it. BB King's, come see Ronnie Spector's best Christmas party ever. December 14th at BB King's in New York City. Saturday, December 15th at the Howard Theater in Washington, D.C. And then where she is in the Hall of Fame at the Mohegan Sun Casino in Connecticut, December 22nd.
That's
Thank
right.
you so much, Ronnie. I
Thank
love
you, Ron.
darling.
I love you too much.
And I will see you next time.
Yes, you will.